जय हिंद दोस्तों, मैं हूं मेजर मोहम्मद अली शाह और आज मेरा बहुत बड़ा सौभाग्य है दैट आई एम विद सच अ रेनाउंड पर्सनालिटी, समवन हु आई हैव आइडलाइज्ड राइट फ्रॉम माय चाइल्डहुड। मैं बचपन से इनको देखता आ रहा हूं और मैं आपको एक बात बताता हूं। जब मैं बहुत छोटा था, मैं केवल क्लास 1 में होऊंगा खैर, तब मेरे फादर और दिग्विजय सिंह, जिनको हम प्यार से हम कहते हैं डिगी भाई, मैं बताता हूँ, वो गोल्फ खेला करते थे मेरठ गोल्फ कोर्स में अक्सर। हाँ, और मैं छोटा बच्चा कैडी भाई बॉल उठाया करता था भाई। खैर डिगी भाई को कोई तारुफ के तो मोहताज है नहीं, आप सब जानते हैं इनको। इन्होंने देश का बहुत नाम कमाया है, देश के लिए बहुत नाम ऊपर किया है। ये प्रोफेशनल गोल्फर हैं और एक एविड स्काई डाइवर हैं और इनकी एक कंपनी भी है जहां पे ये को फाउंडर है, उसके बारे में हम बात करेंगे। मगर आपको मैं वो किस्सा सुना दूं। तो मैं छोटा बच्चा था, मैं जाया करता था गोल्फ कोर्स। मैं दिखता था एक बड़ा लंबा, और छोटे बच्चों के ना लंबा हैंडसम सा आदमी गोल्फ खेल रहे हैं मेरे फादर के साथ। अरे यार, एक जैन साहब हुआ करते थे, ही वाज सेक्रेटरी ऑफ द मेरठ गोल्फ कोर्स, गॉड ब्लेस हिज सोल, एंड डिगी वाज देयर, एंड ऑफ कोर्स माय फादर्स मामा आईजी साहब, they used to all play golf together and I was very inspired by them. तो एक दिन क्या हुआ, शाम के वक्त वहां पे जैकॉल्स आते थे, वहां पे मेरठ गोल्फ कोर्स में, टू डू टेक आउट साउंड्स। तो जिस एरिया से जैकॉल्स आ रहे थे वहां पे एक बार डिगी भाई ने बोला, यार मैं सैंडविच भूल गया। तो छोटे बच्चे को क्या होगा, सैंडविच मतलब सैंडविच खाने वाला सैंडविच, नॉट सैंडवेज, सैंडविच। तो मैं सैंडविच तो आप यहाँ क्या बहुत ऑर्डर कर लिए ना। खैर, बट आई विल, बहुत लंबे किस्से हैं, मैं आपको बोलता रहूंगा। मगर भाई ही वन अ लॉट ऑफ चैंपियनशिप्स। Ultimately, he turned a professional golfer in 1999, and we will talk about his journey where he won amateur championships as well. So, Diggy Bhai, thank you very much for taking your time and welcome to our show.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, Ali. Thank you very much. Although you have not been very good for my ego when you said that you were 1 year old and I was a grown-up guy. But it's been a fantastic journey, and I remember those days very fondly. And I used to play with your father and used to tag along with him on the golf course, and such beautiful days. Wish we could go back to those days, but yeah, it's been a great journey.
Bhai, really,
Pleasure to be here.
I can't even tell you how happy I am. You know, I am forgetting that we are live right now, but I am virtually meeting you. बिल्कुल ऐसा लग रहा है। देखिए भाई, ये बताइए that your father was a very respected army officer. He was in the army, and तो आपकी जो bearing भी है, बहुत ही military bearing है आपकी। So
देखिए मेरे
of ever joining the army yourself?
You know, I've been asked that question a lot of times. देखिए मेरे दिल में honor and my love for the forces is so much that it is evident, and it is on my face. I mean, on my face, as well as in every single conversation of mine which I've ever had with anybody regarding the forces. सिर्फ इसलिए नहीं क्योंकि मेरे फादर फोर्सेस से हैं, ऑल्सो इसलिए कि मेरा जो बचपन गुजरा है पूरा फौज के अंदर अपने फादर के साथ, ऑफ कोर्स वो इतना खूबसूरत रहा है कि दैट इज समथिंग आई कैन नेवर शेड अवे, आई कैन नेवर गो अवे फ्रॉम इट। मैं जो भी आज हूँ प्योरली बिकॉज ऑफ व्हाट द आर्म्ड फोर्सेस प्रोवाइड्स to the officers as well as their families. You know, I mean, access to a golf course hai, access to a lot of other sporting facilities hai. That's purely because my father was in the army. I mean, he had to be a millionaire to be a member at any private club outside the forces. So we were very lucky, and I really owe whatever I am today, a huge part of it, to the armed forces.
Very well said, Diggy bhai. Very well said.
And जैसे आपने पूछा कि did I try to? Yes, I tried my level best to get into the army. I sat for my NDA exam, and then I sat for my CDS exam, but I was beyond horrible as far as mathematics is concerned, and I just couldn't pass my mathematics. I just couldn't get past it. So much so that I got, then I thought I should get enrolled into NCC and get my C certificate, and so that way I could circumvent around the written part of it. But I was 1 year too late in joining NCC, so I joined it in my second year, which was not good enough. I should have joined in my first year of college. Having completed 3, I would have gone directly for my interview. So that did not happen.
Wow, I mean, this is
Yeah.
such an inspiring story for a lot of aspirants who the UPSC or the CDS who do not get through the army, who do not, and they are heartbroken and they feel that, oh God, now what will I do? But look at, I mean, Dicky Bhai, I did not know this part, and I really did not know. Because I had flung the NDA exam, and
Okay.
I did the same thing. I said, let me join the NCC, get a C
Okay.
certificate. उस बहाने कम से कम इंटरव्यू के लिए तो डायरेक्ट हो जाएगा मेरा.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
anyway, that's a different story. Now, Digvijay, tell us about your initial step into golf. How did you start?
Uh,
You must start very early.
so
I presume, yes.
yeah, so this started in '89. I'm a central school product. I'm a Kendriya Vidyalaya product, and it so happened that because I was a little tall, the day I joined school in Dogra Line Center School in Meerut, I was told to sit on the last desk because of, the tall ones always get the last bench, and it so happened that the guy who was sitting next to me, I was introduced to him, and he happened to be somebody called Jyoti Randhawa, which everybody knows today is a very very accomplished golfer and Arjuna awardee. So he and I started talking. What do you do? And he says, I play golf. I said, golf? It's an old man sport. Why would you play golf? Because I used to play a little bit of squash that time, and I used to swim a lot. I used to go horseback riding a little bit. So he says, no, golf is not an old man sport anymore. It's getting younger and younger, and you should come out and try your hand at it. I said, no, 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 मैं golf नहीं खेल सकता. This is too boring. I can't. So this happened in 1988. And so it took him almost 8 to 9 months to draw me out to the golf course, which happened in the May of 1989, where that was the first time I was ever introduced to the sport. And so initially, when I went to the golf course, I was trying to make contact with the ball, and I just could not. And that actually perturbed me. कि यार ये ऐसा क्या sport है कि मैं ball को मार ही नहीं सकता, and here he's sending the ball 250 yards again and again. So ऐसा क्या है? So that's when I realized what hand-eye coordination of really play, what kind of a part it plays in the sport. And वो थोड़ा ego hurt हो गया. So ego की वजह से I kept going back again and again. And then suddenly when you hit one shot out of the blue and it soars up in the sky, which gives you the motivation to come back the next day. And that's exactly what happened with me. So then there was no looking back. And so when I was in my class 12, and my mother was a teacher, my father was still serving in the forces, and I would be at home for prep leaves for the boards. So मैं जैसे ही मेरे mother and father ने school चले जाना, my mom will go to school and my dad would go to office. I would quietly sneak away to the golf course and be back before they came back. और जब वो आएंगे उनके साथ खाना वगैरह खा के उनको बोला कि मैं देखो सुबह से पढ़ रहा हूँ, अब मैं golf course जा रहा हूँ थोड़ी देर के लिए. So I'll get out and I'll go to I would go to the golf course again. So that is how my initial years of golf went around. And I still remember till date very categorically that Mr. Bhimsen Jain, who was the honorary secretary of our golf course, called up my father and said, देखिए आपके बेटे का शायद कुछ, there is something wrong with him, उसका दिमाग खराब हो गया है, वो पूरे दिन golf course में पड़ा रहता है, ना वो खाता है ना पीता है, यहीं पे घूमता रहता है, golf खेलता रहता है, तो थोड़ा उसका ध्यान रखो, उसको थोड़ा घर पे रखो. And then my dad says, नहीं वो तो सुबह से शाम तक दोपहर तक पढ़ता है, and he only comes in the evenings. He says, no, you are misinformed. He's here all day. So I got a dressing down literally in army terms, but when I look back at it, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah.
I love your army term. When I sent the link to you, and when you replied back, Roger, bro, I was like, this is total Fauji. This is total Fauji lingo. That's
See,
Digvijay.
the only thing I did not do was wear the olives. Like you were lucky enough to do that, and my father was lucky enough. And so much so that I was told by there's a very dear friend of mine, General P.S. Mehta. He's retired now. He says, why don't you join the territorial army? Because the age limit there is 42, and you can still. And he told me, and I was 44 by the time he told me this. So that's another opportunity I missed. So I mean, it came by me. And I was late to grab the opportunity, but
But you never know. I mean,
next birth,
what the universe is
maybe
listening. You never know, the territorial army might approach you
Oh my God! If they do that,
for a honorary rank to inspire youngsters.
I would not even bat an eyelid. I would
Yeah,
not even bat an eyelid.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that is, you never know. I hope my words come true, Digvijay.
आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर. You know,
Shukriya.
the love of the crispness when the hand goes up to salute, and you know when it comes down, that just, it does something to me. It does
You know,
something.
and I can so relate to it. Frankly speaking, I would have missed out something great in life had I not joined
Yeah.
the army at least for 5 years. मैं सोचा कि 5 साल तो short service कम से कम मैं करके आऊं फौज में. And
So when
Digvijay, so
when I could not join, I coaxed my first cousin, my mama's son, Abhimanyu. He was pretty much on my lines as far as studies go. So I said, do whatever the hell you do, you have to join the NCC. You have to complete 3 years, and you have to join the army. And he did. And
wow.
he's serving in 14 Punjab. So yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah, yeah,
nice. So
yeah.
tell us about the, about in, I think it was 96, in fact, in Sri Lanka, you won an amateur tournament. That was your first tournament, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was my first win as an amateur. 96, I won the Sri Lankan amateur. Then I won it the year after. I defended my title in 97. And I would have made it three-peat in 98, but I lost on the second last hole. I lost to another fellow Indian called Rahil Ganji from Calcutta. But fantastic tournament. I still remember. I clearly remember how I played and where we were and what we did. The fond memories. Yeah, very fond memories.
Amazing, amazing. So tell me, how is it when you won your first prize money in golf? How was the feeling कि भाई
Uh,
अब पहली बारी में पहली कमाई है golf की?
See, I turned professional in 99, and I played this. So the domestic circuit used to start in the month of August, and it would carry almost like a financial year kind of dates. It would go into the May of next year. You know, so essentially it would run for 8 months, and it would go into the May of next year. So I had a very average start to my professional career. It wasn't I wasn't really going into it with all guns blazing kind of a thing. But success came to me in the March of 2000, where I'd gone for a tournament, got an invite into a tournament on the Asian tour. It was something called the Grohe Masters in Thailand. And I played decent. I finished 8th. And suddenly I found myself in the mix of things with good players, you know, like players who I would look up to, like professionals. I was just out of the amateur blocks, and suddenly I've come up with some good names on playing on the Asian tour. And here I found myself finishing 8th. I said, wow, if I've finished 8th now, I think I can do better next time. So there's nothing else to it, right? And the very week after that, I went to play this tournament in Bombay, which is, I think, called the 5th BPGC Open, and I won that week. So I got my first win in the very first year of turning professional. That, I think, was a big boost to my confidence, and a big boost to my own belief that I can win, and then winning breeds winning again. So that, I think, was the start of a couple of more victories to come.
You're such an avid sportsman. Is this the reason that when you met your spouse, your better half, she also a volleyball player, that is from the Raya School of Sports. So
That's
did
that's
you
right.
get along on the sport net, the two of you, or kya? Tell us a bit about that.
In fact, I learned much later that she's a she's a volleyball player, and that she's represented her school. She's been to Sri Lanka and whatnot. To me, she was the more educated of the two of us. So when somebody asked me, "What does your wife do?" When I got to know that she's an NID product and National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, so I said, "ठीक है होगा." Because you see, I'm not from a very academic background, right? I'm just a BCom. I went to Merit University. So then somebody asked me, "What does your wife do?" I said, she's a designer. She's come from NID. Oh, really? She's from NID? I said, हाँ क्यों, क्या बहुत बड़ी बात क्या है? Oh, you have no idea? NID is the school for design, and it's next to impossible to get through. I said, wow. Really? I looked at her and I was like, my chest was, filled with pride, so to say. And then I would always introduce her as the more educated of the two of us. So, and she's a very sporty girl. She's both the sisters have played volleyball. She was the sports captain of Motilal Nehru School of Sports, and the head girl as well. So she's one of the very few who held both the positions.
Oh, wow.
And,
So
yeah.
leadership was always there with her. Now today she
Yeah.
is in active politics. And of course her
Yes.
father was the revenue minister of Haryana earlier. So वो
That's right.
leadership qualities हमेशा से थी और आप में भी हैं. मैं तो
नहीं
ये
उसमें
कहूँगा.
है and I'm just a follower.
Arey, lovely,
So yeah.
lovely. I want to understand the psychology of a professional golfer when he's putting for the final putt, and there's a small. So I'm sure I don't know whether like I play golf as well, and I was inspired by you to learn golf. But I play for leisure. There's a difference. आप जब लोग खेलते हैं professional golfers, a small putt. If I as playing leisure, if I miss a small putt, I can't forgive myself. I'm like, oh God, I slap myself at least 10 times. Up for a professional golfer, before you even hit the ball, तो दिमाग जहन में क्या गुजरती है उस टाइम पे?
So देखिए उस समय क्या होता है ना, what happens after a shot is an outcome, right? I cannot control the outcome. What I can control is the swing that I make on the ball here. Outcome is the result of the swing that I'm going to make here, right? So it's like in the forces when you are अगर आप एक दुश्मन के ऊपर गोली चला रहे हैं, तो अगर आप उसको, you cannot will it on the target, right? You have to go through a process. You have to get it into crosshairs. You have to match it with the post in front, and then you have to make sure that the post is on the on the adversary, and then you squeeze the trigger. So what you do correct here is a result of what you get on the target, right? So it's the same thing here. So process is what we call it. Staying in the now, staying in the presence, rather than looking at what will be. You better control what you have at the moment. So and because you've practiced it enough on the driving range, and you can't say that you have perfected it, because nobody can perfect the sport, any sport for that matter. So you practiced it enough number of times, and you just stand there and try and repeat what you've practiced for so many years. And the result is what follows, which at times is bad, but at times it is good. But then you have to take it in the same stride and just carry on. So, yeah.
जब बता रहे थे अपने 1988 का किस्सा का दास्तान के, जब आप when you were putting the ball on the tee and you were trying to hit it and you were toughing at that time. So we all, in fact, all golfers have gone through that.
Every one of them.
In the initial stages, you know. So मैं तो ये था कि भाई, I used to see you hitting a long ball. I'm like, what a drive, wow. And तो मैं अब मैं मारूंगा, बिल्कुल लगा के यार, कस के मारी and ball ही नजर नहीं आ रही.
Yeah. So every one of us has gone through the same stage. I would do exactly what you were telling me that you've done. I would look at Jyoti, or I would look at some other players, and I would look at them and itna effortlessly maar rahe hain. And we are trying our level best here, wo ball nahi lag rahi hai. But then if you superimpose the same picture onto let's say a cricketer, let's say you look at Tendulkar. Tendulkar is he's not 6'4". He's not built like Matthew Hayden, right? But he can still plaster that ball as far as Matthew Hayden. So it's all timing. You come across a Shoaib Akhtar who's steering down the pitch, and yet Tendulkar sends him over the ropes, not only over the ropes, into the stands. So it's all timing. It's how synchronized your golf swing becomes, and how you maintain that tempo that sends the ball far. अगर ये जोर लगाने का गेम होता तो हरियाणा और पंजाब से ही होते सारे गोल्फर, और कहीं से नहीं होते. Right?
सही बात है.
No offense to them. They are great in wrestling and whatnot. Right?
Totally. Digvijay, also would like to know about your skydiving. You are an avid skydiver. You have a company as well. You are a co-founder of that. So tell us a bit about your skydiving. Because golf तो हर कोई जानता है आपके बारे में. Everyone knows the name of Digvijay Singh, and I'm going to show off, by the way, after this interview. मैं इसको इतना show करूँगा भाई. Pashpa, I can add the liberty of saying, हालांकि he was my father's friend, though age different बहुत फर्क है दोनों में. But still, I look at him like, wow. So I would like to know about your skydiving, Digvijay.
Like you said, your father's friend. I have such fond memories of playing golf with your father. I remember as a young colonel, your father was posted as Colonel GS in Nagrota. Those are the times he used to come to Meerut on chutti. That's the time we used to play. We played a lot of golf with him. I mean, together. We played enough golf together. So coming back to skydiving, skydiving actually, I always wanted to skydive, but unfortunately, there was nothing in India. There was no opportunity in India for civilians to experience the sport. And I was lucky enough that the Indian Naval skydiving team was conducting a camp for their own soldiers and seamen in Hisar, and they had a civil hired aircraft. Of course, we can't jump from army aircrafts, so they had a civil hired aircraft. So two of these friends of mine, Commander Rajesh and Commander Mahesh, were leading that team. They themselves were qualified skydivers and instructors at the same time, and they said, "Why don't you come and join us? We'll impart education. We'll impart the entire procedure, and you can use our parachutes, and you can pay for your usage of the aircraft directly to the company that we've hired the aircraft from." And lo and behold, I picked up the car the next morning and I drove to Hisar, and that was back in 2008, and did 4 jumps. I remember, like what you do in the armed forces when you do your four static lines and then you do one free fall and you get your wings, right? The chidiya is what they call it in the in the forces. So I did my 4 static lines. I did my first free fall with them, and I was completely mesmerized by the sport. In the following year, I went to America, 2009. Both me and Jyoti, we went to America, got our A licenses, did our 25 jumps, and then 2 years later went and completed 50 more jumps and got our B licenses. And then I always wanted everybody in this country to experience the sport. So I tried my best. We held a few camps. Those camps were very limited in time, like a 1 week camp in Sagar and 1 week camp in Hisar, but it wasn't permanent. There was no permanency to the sport or to the entire scenario, because to a large extent, very stringent laws in the country, and I would say archaic is the right word, right? And but luckily, slowly things started opening up, and I met this guy called Rudra Bhanu Solanki, who is my partner today in the business. He was already skydiving and very keen on starting a company. He had already started a company called Sky High, and I joined hands with him in 2018. He at the time was operating out of Aligarh and probably doing 5 or 6 tandem jumps in a month. And since we shifted bases to a place called Narnaul, and thank you to the government of Haryana for having accommodated us on the airstrip, on one of the airstrips in Narnaul, we've been averaging close to about 100 jumps every month. That's where we are today.
Wow.
And we hope to grow that to
एक शिकायत है मेरे को, आप अलीगढ़ भी आए, आप एयरस्ट्रिप उस टाइम पे मेरे फादर वहां पे वाइस चांसलर थे.
नहीं, उस टाइम no, he had already left. He had already left by then.
Oh, हाँ, 2018. Right. 2017 he retired from there.
Yes,
that's right.
yes.
फिर ठीक है.
Yeah.
बच गए.
How can I go to Aligarh and not meet sir? Cannot happen. Yeah.
जी. But tell us about your first jump. Like you told about your first stroke. Yeah. That's very
interesting. Man, that's so I am all padded up with the parachute, really gung-ho about going up, and so Commander Rajesh comes, are you ready? I said, yeah, let's go. So I got into the aircraft, and there are two skydivers to go one after the other, and he's the instructor. It's a small aircraft. It's a 4-seater. So we make one round. The first guy goes out, and then we take another round, and we come back so that there is enough separation between 2 skydivers. So we come down. Now in the last leg, he pats me on my back and says, ready? Start crawling out. And there's no door in the aircraft. Right? You take the door out because it's impossible to push it open with the wind gushing. And then it struck me. And I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Why would you do something like this? I mean, I literally was calling myself names. I was calling myself an idiot. तुम golf खेलते हो, you're a golfer. अगर हाथ पैर टूट गया, कुछ हो गया, क्या हो गया? What's going to happen to your bread and butter? And I'm thinking about this, but everything is happening too fast. And then we are right on top of the airfield where I'm supposed to jump on. He says, oh, come on, don't delay. Let's go. We will pass the spot. And before I could say Jack Robinson, I was out, and I looked at him and he says, go. So I went, out, in, and out. And then suddenly, and the entire procedure that I was taught during the course, before you go for a jump, you have to look up and you count 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. It was all out of the window. The moment the parachute opened, I was like, oh man, the parachute is open. So I'm not going to die. That's the first thought that came to my mind. I pulled down the toggles and I started steering. I went left and I went right. I said, wow, man, this is what flying like a bird actually means. So that was literally a life-changing moment for me, that first jump of mine. I can never forget the feeling. That cold, crisp October, end October, beginning November air, and especially if you're in a place like Hisar, there's no pollution. It's beautiful. I just wanted to be up there for as long as possible. But unfortunately, it was coming down. The parachute is not designed to go up, it's designed to come down. And I had a very, I won't say a very smooth landing, but I had a bit of a bumpy landing, but not that I was hurt or anything. It was just a bumpy landing. I just got scratched under my bum or something like that. But I wanted to go up as soon as possible. So I got up in the air again, my second jump, the same afternoon. It was even better. So what happens in the sport is that first of all, when that fear of life and death goes away, that's when the frames per second start increasing. First of all, okay, haan, jinda bach gaye. That's the first thought, which is very human. Fear is human. Somebody who says is not afraid is lying. Either he's lying or he's a Gurkha, right?
As said by Sam Manekshaw. Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw.
And my father comes from a Gurkha regiment, so I cannot let go of that
of course.
motto.
Of course.
So once you realize that you're alive, then you start looking around, and you know that it's just like riding a bicycle. If you want to go left, you turn left. If you want to go right, turn right. So the same thing is what the toggles do. So that's when I started enjoying it more and more and more and more. Like my mother still says, yeah, itna jump kar liya, kitna jump karna? It's the same. I said, no, you can't. Every single jump is different from the last one. It's like in golf, they say, no two shots in golf are the same. Never, ever. So that's what it is.
There's a small little joke I would like to tell, especially for your mother, if she'll be watching us or जब वो देखेंगी. So auntie, बात ऐसी है कि एक बार दिग्विजय सिंह और मोहम्मद अली शाह स्काई डाइविंग के लिए गए. So दिग्विजय सिंह और मोहम्मद अली शाह की पहली स्काई डाइविंग थी. तो दिग्विजय सिंह ने अली शाह को समझाया कि भाई जब तुम इतने ऊपर ऑल्टीट्यूड पे होगे तब पैराशूट खोलना है. ठीक है, understood. 3 bags full. Now both of us are in the sky, and Digvijay Singh is communicating to Mohammed Ali Shah from top, open your parachute, dude! Open now! And Mohammed Ali is like, I'm quite enjoying it. Abhi nahi. I'll go down. One moment. No, open now! And ऐसे करते 5 meters पे आ गए. Dude, you're just 5 meters! You will fall! You are putting yourself at stake. You will die! Oh, 5 meters? I might as well jump.
5 meters is hardly any height. Might as well jump. Let's hope that never happens with anybody. But yeah,
right.
Okay. But somebody asked me. There's a skydiving joke that's been going around, which goes an absolute layman asked a skydiver, "How do you know when to open the parachute?" So instead of telling him that there is an altimeter on the hand that tells me how high I am, he says, "Oh, I look down and I see when the people look like ants, that's the time to open." He says, "Really?" So, yeah. And when ants look like people, don't bother.
Oh God, good one. Real good one. That reminds me again, of another thing I'll tell you. You may not be knowing this. I served as ADC to my dad incidentally when he was commanding a corps.
Yes, I know that.
You know this.
Yes, I know that.
So first day, when I report kiya, so 5 baje, and I called up, morning sir, this is Captain Shah reporting sir. He's like, okay, we'll go for golf in the morning. And first thing, first show.
Golf.
आते ही golf, उसके बाद वापस आए, फिर helicopter पे, फिर we are going to Half-Long and other places to visit. उस दिन Gunners Day था, I remember very clearly. It was end of September, 28 September 2005.
Okay.
And So I said, "Bhai, first day, abhi, I'm going as ADC. I better be very, very professional and better
Pull up my
be."
socks.
So I reached the golf course before him. The club professional welcomed us. ADC
Okay.
साहब आए हैं. I asked him, साहब ये practicing range कहाँ पर है? He showed me the practicing range. So
Okay.
भाई I went and I started practicing.
Uh-huh.
कि भाई जनरल साहब का
Get
golf खेलूंगा,
get
let me
warmed up.
impress him. And now you know what happened?
Uh-huh.
भाई जनरल साहब आए अपने गाड़ी में and he asked the professional, हाँ ADC साहब का है? साहब कैप्टन साहब very hard working साहब, very
Warm
very
up कर
hard
रहे हैं.
working. वहाँ पे practicing range में practice कर रहे हैं. So he
Right.
walks up to the practicing range and he finds me practicing very hard with my hands behind my back and saying, "Oh, what a shot, sir! Look at that! What a beauty, sir! What a beauty!"
So you were watching somebody else practice.
So I was practicing. I was practicing कि जब जनरल साहब शॉट मारेंगे तो मैं
This is what I'm
कैसे
gonna
करूंगा
say.
what a shot.
This is what I'm gonna say. This is what I'm gonna say. Okay. That's how nice. But that's great. Serving under your father must have been a great experience. I mean, apart from the fact that he's seen you at home, this is seeing you professionally, and I'm sure he never called you son or beta when you were in the uniform.
No.
He'd always address you as ADC.
You know what, how it was? It was like, when my CEO told me in the unit, I was in JNK that time, that
Right.
you're going to Nagaland, you are going as ADC to GOC 3 Corps,
Right.
and General Shah
Dimapur,
has
right?
been approved. General Shah will be here. So that's my father. He would be taking over the 3 Corps and all. Earlier, I thought my CEO was joking.
Okay.
So मैंने उस टाइम पे ना तो मोबाइल आए नहीं थे. This is I'm talking about 2005.
Or
And,
just about, I think. Or
yeah,
just about,
yeah.
I think. Huh, right.
It
right.
wasn't in vogue, like it wasn't that
No,
common.
it
So I
wasn't.
went
No, it wasn't.
rushing towards the RP gate जहाँ पे STD booth था हमारा.
Right.
वहाँ लंबी लाइन होती थी. And numbers
Right.
लगते नहीं थे वहाँ पे, हम ऐसे इलाके में थे. So I couldn't
Okay.
get through to house also कि भाई, और भाई
Just to
हफ्ते
get a
हफ्ते
sense
10
of
दिन
whether
घर पे
this is
फोन
true
नहीं
or not.
करेंगे, खत नहीं लिखेंगे, हालचाल नहीं पूछेंगे.
Right.
Only when you need something तब कि भाई then you will
True.
drop an SOS, that kind
True.
of stuff. And then when I went as ADC, I never went to the house ever. ADC
Okay.
is meant to be like the sun.
Yeah,
Here
of
the
course.
ADC was the sun. तो मैंने
Yeah,
कभी
I know.
घर ही नहीं
So
किया.
that's actually the grooming stages for an ADC.
जी.
Yeah.
बल्कि after he got posted out, General MS Dadwal took over from him.
Okay.
And he retained me for some time. So
Okay.
with General Dadwala and his wife, I was very informal. We are still in touch.
Okay.
And I was very informal with them. I had access to their kitchen, to their fridge,
Right.
to everything.
Right. How nice. The habits and the qualities that the armed forces inculcate in a person can not be duplicated anywhere. In no other vertical of life will you ever see that kind of education ever. I mean, I was not lucky enough to be in to wear the olives myself, but I very closely understand every aspect of it. Beautiful. It's such a beautiful organization. You're lucky. You're very lucky.
Very lucky.
I envy you for that, and I will always envy you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anyway, also I want to ask you, you have such a charismatic personality. You are so tall. You have such a fine military bearing. You look so good. You speak so well. You're so dashing. Your
Thank you
sister
very
is such
much.
a popular actor. Chaitanya was saying everyone knows her. I mean, so and she started her career with modeling. In fact, Altaf Raja's song "Tum To Thehre Pardesi" which became viral at that time. So tell me one thing: didn't you try your hand at modeling yourself?
No, I didn't. No, I always wanted to play golf, and that was my first love, really. And it's not easy to be a model, huh? By the way. I mean, you can eat, I'm going to eat this, I'm not going to eat that, and this, that, and the other. So no profession is easy, for that matter. But my heart was, on the golf course. And
What
it
a
remained there. It remained there.
very well said. मतलब offers तो आए होंगे आपको कि भी
Well,
ramp
I,
करके हो
I,
या
I did walk the ramp for somebody, and I did do a commercial for Royal Challenge. I did a TV advert for Royal Challenge. That was back in 2002, if I remember correct. But that was it. Nothing more than that. I never
Alright.
pursued it, and nothing came my way. Let me be very frank.
right,
So yeah,
right.
if it did come, I might have taken it, but not at the expense of golf. That would not have happened.
I remember you telling me in my childhood, बचपन से अच्छे से याद है, you asking me what all games do you play. So I told you I am very interested in football, basketball, and this, that. So you told me very good. I remember this advice from you very clearly and categorically, which I'll never forget. You said it's very good. These troop games they're talking about, football, basketball, is very good. But see, a golf is a game you will never retire. You can
You'll never
play
retire.
it.
Yes, correct.
You can
Correct.
play it even when you're 80 years old. You cannot play
Yes.
football when you're 80 years
Yes.
old.
Yes.
और
Yes.
आपकी वो सलाह, it holds me in good stead today, even till today. And it is like, wow. So, in your views, supposing like my nephew, my sister's son, Ayan, he was head boy at my school, Lawrence School, Lovedale, and my parents were training him to be a professional golfer.
Nice.
And yeah, and they had a full, when he was born, तभी से मालूम उसका नाम रख गया था, Cheetah Shah. Cheetah would be
Lovely.
sports name. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And they
Wow.
were aiming at he will win the US Open 2020. This
Okay.
was, they were talking way back, I mean, 2000, 2000 May they were talking.
2000,
Okay, by
2001. Right.
2020 he'll win the US Open and such
Right.
things. But
Okay.
then
Okay.
he has played in the best of golf courses. He was a very good golfer. But
Okay.
somewhere down the line, then he went off to a boarding school. वहाँ पे उसकी golf, it didn't
Could
really.
be थोड़ी. Yeah, could
जी,
not
जी,
continue it with it as regularly. हाँ, so वो थोड़ा सा that's a bit of a drawback that we have in our country, where golf courses are not easily available. Or I mean, we can only boast of one public course in the country, which is in Delhi, the Qutub Golf Club. What we need is more and more public courses available to the common man, not just an army officer's kid, and more involvement of the central government or the sports ministry. Since golf is in the Olympics now, it's an Olympic sport, all the more reason for them to pay attention to the sport. And a huge size of the population thinks it's a very elitist kind of a sport, purely because there are private clubs. The day you have more and more public courses available, it will not become a elitist sport. It'll come down to a common man sport. Like you look at America, every single county has a couple of courses. Every 20 kilometers, there's a golf course. And looking at the size of the population, you can imagine how much, how many people per course kind of a population they have. So it's all, every single sport is about availability. Cricket के लिए क्या चाहिए आपको? एक ground चाहिए. You need 22 people, which is not a problem. All you need is 2 bats, 6 wickets, and a ball. But for a golf course, I mean, for somebody to play golf, you require a golf course. So more is required for a golf course as compared to any other sport. That is why we are lacking a little at the moment in the country. It is getting better. It is getting better. More and more courses are cropping up, but certainly we need more public courses than private.
So what age do you advise for a youngster that he, अगर किसी को professional golfer बनाना है, so they say catch them young, start early. So what would be the age that you would recommend that okay, you should start at this age?
See, there is no age per se, but the moment you start getting your hand-eye coordination right, see when the kid is 3 or 4 years old and you throw the ball to him, he cannot catch it, right? He tries to, but he can't. He keeps missing it. So his hand-eye coordination is still settling in. The day your hand-eye coordination settles in, which is like the age of, I would say 7, 8, that's the time to start playing golf. But one mistake that every single parent that I have seen so far, whose child is playing golf, is that everybody wants to see a Tiger Woods in their family. First of all, it's not going to happen. The higher you go, the pyramid only gets steeper and steeper, number one. But that should not demotivate you. I always advise people to not push their kids to play golf because they want him to play golf. Let the kid play golf because he or she wants to play golf. So whenever I want somebody to start, or whenever I advise somebody to, somebody on the issue, I always tell them, bring your kid to the golf course. Don't tell him to play golf. Let him look and pick up the golf club on his own and start hacking around. That will generate an interest in him, and that is what will be the driving force for him to continue further. Because the moment, I start telling a kid, अच्छा हम आज golf खेलने जाएंगे, आप ऐसे shot मारोगे, ऐसे club पकड़ोगे, ऐसे swing करोगे, he'll start thinking, this is another classroom. I want freedom. he's going to run away from the sport. I've seen enough examples around me where young kids have actually quit the sport for good. So, it's like, when you train, let's say when you train a dog at home. I'm not equating the child to a dog, but
I know.
when they're kids, when you train a dog, you only have to train the first generation. You don't have to train the second generation. So if you teach the dog sit, bark, go, fetch, all you have to do is when it has puppies, you just let the puppies be, and the puppies will automatically understand what the mother or the father is doing and what kind of command to hear. So you don't have to teach him. Again, अगर उसको सिखाना शुरू कर दोगे, वो start biting because it's a puppy. It has to reach a certain stage for it to start taking instructions, which is 7 to 8 months, right? I mean, as compared in a dog's age. So similarly, when a child starts hitting the golf ball, and then when he's looking for direction, कि अच्छा मेरी ball सीधी नहीं जा रही है, that is the time you step in and you tell them कि अच्छा बेटा आप ना golf club को ऐसे पकड़िए, ये आप छोटा सा change कीजिए, the ball is going to be will go into the desired direction. That's how you introduce the kid into the sport. Otherwise, it's going to be like a classroom. It's going to be like another school, like another tuition. He's going to try and run away from it. You have to make the sport attractive to him rather than a punishment to him. So what happens is most of these parents are trying to live their own dreams through their kids rather than the kid making his dreams come true. Like that movie, Three Idiots. I think it's a beautiful movie. What a game changer it has proven to be. I mean, let the kid do what he wants to do or she wants to do. So, yeah,
exactly. I remember this book, by Jack Nicklaus, Total Golf Techniques. In Mirror Golf Course, it was you, my father's mama, IG साहब, जैन साहब, हम बैठ के उस पे एक डिस्कशन हो रहा था. वो किताब वो लेके आए थे, उस पे highlighted points थे. And then I remember this very clearly, मेरे को vivid अच्छी तरीके से याद है. You and my father were discussing at that time that a golf club की जो grip है, it should be gripped as hard as you are holding a toothpaste.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's the right amount of grip. So both tip हमेशा मेरे ज़हन में रही है. That has never left my mind at all.
Yeah.
And keep your eyes on the ball, and when you're putting, you always say never over, never in. So ये सब कुछ चीजें मैं आपसे सीखा था बचपन में. I can never forget those. I have such fond memories with you, Digvijay.
So, whenever I give this example, a lot of people have asked me, what kind of grip pressure do you maintain on the club? So an easier example is, it's like holding a bird in your hand or a toothpaste. If you squeeze it too hard, you're going to kill the bird, and you're going to, the entire tube is going to be empty. And if you hold it too light, the bird is going to fly away, and the toothpaste tube is going to drop to the ground. So you hold the club firm, you don't hold it tight. It's similarly, because then it becomes easier for you to control the club if you've held it firm. If you hold it tight, then you will not be able to control it. You'll be guiding it. An easier example is, if you're in a crowded street, and if I told you to step on the gas and you take the car to 40 or 50 or 60, you will automatically see your hands will tighten up on the steering. If you try and drive fast, your hands will tighten up on the steering if it is a crowded street. So what happens is, the tension runs out through your fingertips. On the contrary, if you actually hold it lighter, the steering, you'll be able to maneuver it far better. You should try that. When
right,
you're driving,
makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. That's again a very interesting tip you've given. I want to know about your association, if at all. I don't know. I would like to learn on this. I wish I had known of this before the show. With Tiger Woods, in fact, Digvijay.
I've never played with him. I've met him only once. Back in 2000, it was July of 2000. That was the first British Open he won at St. Andrews. And my friend Jyoti was playing the tournament, and I was caddying for him that week. And we were on the driving range, and I happened to walk past Tiger, and I just stood behind him, and I was watching him hit the ball. And he saw me standing and turned around and said, hi. It was really nice, really down to earth. So I congratulated him for the US Open win at Pebble Beach a couple of weeks before that week. And he said, oh, you watched it? I said, yeah, the entire world watched it. And he says, are you playing the tournament this week? I said, no, I'm not. I'm caddying for a friend of mine. He said, well, you guys have a great outing. Have a great week. And that was my interaction with him. And I congratulated him on the win, and I offered him my wishes, and I walked by. But
Wow.
what a sportsman! What a sportsman! I mean, I think he is, not because I play golf and my love towards the sport is more than any other sport, but a Tiger Woods only happens probably once in a century. According to me, he's the sportsman of the century.
Wow, wow. The way you, when you talk about the moment you share with Tiger Woods, similarly, there would be a lot of young people in our country who would have seen you from a distance, or would been watching you play, who would be admiring you. For example, there are a lot of comments coming for you. There's one comment I will highlight it over here, where this person Raj says, "Oh, finally, I always thought it would be nice to have him on the show." So he
Thank
writes
you
this.
very much for saying that, Raj. Thank you.
So,
It's my
so like
pleasure,
I think,
and Ali is like a younger brother, so it's always a pleasure to be associated
how
and be
sweet,
here on a
how
show.
sweet, Digvijay, how
Not
sweet.
at all. Not at all.
So, Digvijay, also I would like to know that many youngsters will be watching you exactly the same way, the way you looked at Tiger Woods. And what is your message to the younger generation, not just for golfers only, for the youth of the world, not just India, but for the youth in general?
I think sports is such a beautiful platform which equates people across borders. It equates people across ideological lines. It equates people across physical lines. I think sport is one medium that equates the entire world. Olympics shows you every 4 years. Olympics shows you that, and it does not matter whether you play golf or you play football or you play hockey or basketball. Try and play one sport for sure, whatever it is, whatever your heart says. I mean, if somebody tells you table tennis is not a sport, he's wrong. It can, it can have you sweating in 20 minutes of the sport. So let nobody tell you that, this is hardly a sport and that is a sport and you should play cricket or you should play that. Play the sport that you like playing, but you must absolutely play one sport, because the kind of learning and the kind of camaraderie that a sport will bring to you and to your personality, I don't think working in corporates will ever bring you that. It's too cutthroat there.
Super. Superb. There's so many comments, but this comment I just have to highlight. Wow, sir, you both have good chemistry. Happy you got from. Look at that. I mean, that is
Thank you
when two
so much.
brothers meet, when two Fauji's meet. I would say we are both are Fauji's.
Fauji and
Spirited.
a half. Fauji and a half. I'm only half a Fauji. In my heart, I am, but yeah, only the olives evaded me.
Great, great, डी भाई. Thank you so much for taking our time. Really grateful to you. And आपसे
Don't be
गुफ्तगू में
ridiculous.
कैसे वक्त गुजर गया मालूम नहीं पड़ा. 45 मिनट ऐसे निकल गए. It's like really. I mean, I am truly grateful and overwhelmed that I am speaking to you, bhai.
Thank you very much for having me over, and please, you don't have to thank me at all. You don't owe me nothing. You'd be ridiculous when you say that it is great for me to take off time. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to another Fauji, regardless of the sport that I play. Absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for having me over.
Thank you, Digi bhai. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much love.
All right.